Everyone's talking about Claude Opus 4.7 this week, but nobody's mentioning the part that might make you want to stick with the older version. I found 11 things worth your time. One of them genuinely surprised me. A robot factory pumping out 10,000 humanoids a year. One of them is pure noise, and I'll call it out by name when we get there. I'm saving the biggest story for after the halfway point. You need to see the sprinting robot first, or the factory stuff won't land right. Quick confession, I was wrong about how fast humanoid robots would scale. The proof showed up this week and I can't ignore it. Here's the speed round. Claude Opus 4.7 might be worse. OpenAI made a scientist. Google's TTS finally laughs. AniGen rigs 3D skeletons from one image. Alibaba made an interactive world generator. Nvidia turns videos into 3D in 131 megabytes. Robots are sprinting at 36 kilometers an hour. And someone built a factory that builds a humanoid every 30 minutes. Now, let me break down which ones actually matter. And I'm saving the robot factory for later, because you need to see the sprinting demo first to understand why it's a big deal. Let's start with the one everyone's clicking on. Hey, what's going on guys? Tyson here. Anthropic released Claude Opus 4.7 this week. Here's the headline they want you to see. Number 1 on LM Arena for text and coding. Beats their previous model across Sweep Bench Pro, Terminal Bench, all the standard stuff. Better at instruction following. Better multimodal. Images over 2500 pixels now. 1 million token context. Same price as 4.6. Sounds great, right? Here's what they don't tell you. If you look at the category level performance on Arena, Opus 4.7 is actually significantly worse at business management, financial ops, entertainment, sports, media, hard prompts, longer queries, and this is the weird one, instruction following. The thing they claimed improved. I actually tried this myself. I was using Claude Code to build something I've made before with 4.6, and 4.7 broke stuff. Not subtly, it was more erratic, more confident about wrong answers. But if your use case falls into that bottom bucket, you're better off with 4.6 and look at Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index. Opus 4.7 scores the same as Gemini 3.1 Pro and GPT 5.4 models from months ago, but it's way slower than both and more expensive. So who is this for? If you're a hardcore software engineer doing complex agentic workflows, yeah, upgrade. If you're anything else, don't believe the hype. Test it first. I'm keeping 4.6 installed alongside it. That's my honest take. But here's what connects to something I found later in the week. This pattern of upgrades that aren't universally better. Hold that thought. We're coming back to it in about 5 minutes when I tell you which tool I actually deleted from my machine after 20 minutes. That was the polished, well-funded version of an AI upgrade. What comes next is messier, heavier, and frankly more interesting. Leju Robotics just flipped the switch on what they claim is the first automated production line for humanoid robots in China. Here's what happened when I looked into the numbers. The line produces one complete humanoid robot every 30 minutes. That's over 10,000 units per year. Robotic arms, automated guided vehicles, precision stations, 92% of key processes fully automated, 24 digitalized assembly stages, 77 quality and safety checks per unit. Now I need to be honest with you. It's not fully autonomous. You can see humans in several of those shots. But that's not the point. The point is the shift. We are moving from lab prototypes and hand-built robots, which is where almost every humanoid company is right now, to industrial scale, like car assembly lines. As someone who's been skeptical of humanoid hype for the last 2 years, this matters because economies of scale drive costs down. Lower costs mean wider deployment. Wider deployment means more real-world data. More data means better robots. Speaking of which, the second robot marathon just happened in Beijing this weekend. 70 plus teams, 40% running fully autonomous, no remote control, no teleoperation. Last year we saw robots falling over constantly. This year, most of them can actually sprint. Unitree's H1 hit 10 meters per second. That's 36 kilometers an hour. World record for a humanoid. It's not jogging, it's sprinting. The whole body control is genuinely impressive. And this connects directly to the story I teased at the start. The factory. You can't have mass deployment without mass manufacturing. And now we have both. The marathon shows the software is catching up. The factory shows the hardware can scale. I'll get back to why this actually changes the timeline. But first, let me hit some stuff you can actually download and use today. Speaking of things that are surprisingly efficient, and these robots are not efficient, they're power-hungry beasts. Let me show you the opposite end of the spectrum. Ternary Bonsai. This is a family of ultra-efficient 1.58-bit language models, and I need you to understand why this is weird weird. Most models store parameters at 16-bit precision. That's a lot of numerical detail, but it makes them huge, like hundreds of gigabytes huge. Ternary Bonsai restricts every weight to just 3 possible values, -1, 0, or 1. That's it. 3 options. The result. Their 8 billion parameter model is 1.7 gigabytes, 9 times smaller than a standard 16-bit model. But look at the benchmarks. It outperforms Mistral, Llama 3.1, GLM-4 on reasoning, coding, and knowledge tasks. I actually downloaded the 8B model this morning. It ran on my laptop, not a gaming laptop, just a normal laptop. Hit over 100 tokens per second. The catch: it's not as smart as Claude or GPT-4, obviously, but for on-device stuff, running locally, offline, on your phone, this is genuinely useful. And this is the part that annoyed me. The Hugging Face page is a little scattered. The implementation docs assume you know what you're doing. But if you've ever run a local model before, you'll figure it out in about 10 minutes. I'm keeping this one. Actually added it to my workflow for quick local inference. Okay, remember that thing I mentioned at the start about a tool I deleted after 20 minutes? We are almost there. One more tier 2 story first. I know that last one was a bit technical. Quick gear change. This next story is more straightforward, but the implications are bigger. OpenAI released a model called GPT Rosalind. It's designed specifically for life sciences research, drug discovery, genomics, protein engineering. Here's the problem they're solving. It takes 10 to 15 years to go from target discovery to an approved drug. A huge chunk of that time isn't lab work. It's reading papers, pulling data from different databases, iterating hypotheses. Rosalind is meant to sit in the middle of that workflow. Literature review, experimental planning, data analysis, all in one place. It connects to 50 plus scientific databases and tools through a new plugin for Codex. Look at these numbers. Compared to GPT 5.4, Rosalind crushes it on experimental design and analysis. Like, huge improvements. The honest truth, this is impressive. If it works at scale, AI is starting to actively participate in real scientific discovery pipelines. Not just coding or writing, actual drug discovery. But here's the catch. It's not open to everyone. You have to request access as a life sciences lab, and we have no idea what it costs. There's one tool in this video that I deleted from my machine after 20 minutes. It's not this one, Rosalind, I'd use if I could get access. The one I deleted is in the quick hits. I'll tell you which one when we get there. That was the polished, well-funded version of scientific AI. What comes next is weirder and more fun. AniGen takes a single image and generates a 3D model with a complete skeleton, ready for animation. No messy post-processing. Here's an example. One photo of a lamp. It generates articulated joints. You can move the arm. Here's a shark. Watch it swim. The skeleton aligns naturally with the geometry. Compared to competitors like Animate and Puppeteer, AniGen is the closest to ground truth for both segmentation and skeleton estimation. I tried this with a photo of my dog. Not kidding. It worked about 70% as well as their examples. The legs got a little weird, but for a single image, that's honestly impressive. The minimum VRAM is 18 GB on an NVIDIA GPU, so you can't run this on a MacBook. But if you have a decent gaming PC, you can run it locally right now. The code is on GitHub. Who is this for? Game developers, indie animators, anyone who's ever had to rig a 3D character manually and wanted to throw their mouse across the room. This one surprised me. I expected it to be garbage. It's not. Speaking of things that actually work, let me end this section with something you can try for free right now. Google released Gemini 3.1 Flash Text-to-Speech, and here's what's different. It accepts meta tags that control emotion. Excited, amazed, whisper, panic, sigh, laughs. Listen to this.
Welcome to the next generation of Gemini text-to-speech. Watch how these tags transform the tone. We can drop into a dark, suspenseful whisper, or speed things up to absolute panic mode because we're running out of time. The model breathes. It even laughs. The best part is being able to control the timing with a dramatic pause.
The model breathes. It even laughs. Now the Shakespeare test. Play neutral versus troubled philosopher versus deranged outcast.
To be or not to be, that is the question. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to.
The deranged outcast version actually gave me chills. It beats 11 Labs V3 on expressiveness. I didn't expect that. The catch: you can't clone voices, only default speakers. But they give you a ton of options, different accents, genders, ages, and it supports 70 plus languages. You can try this right now in Google AI Studio for free. Type your script, add whisper or ha or dramatic pause, and it just works. I've already added this to my workflow for rough cuts of voiceover. Okay, let me speedrun the rest. Shorter but not less useful. Wild Dead 3D runs on your iPhone. Point your camera at a scene, draw a box around any object, and it tracks that object in 3D with metric depth and dimensions. You can also type monitor and it finds all monitors automatically. Open source. Actually works. Worth it if you do any AR or robotics tinkering. Motive Video 2B, 2 billion parameter video model. 7x fewer parameters than Alibaba's one, 10x less training data, and it's 90% of the quality. Requires 19GB VRAM. Worth it if you are running local video generation on a budget. Happy Oyster. Alibaba's open-ended world model, like Google's Genie 3, generate interactive 3D worlds from prompts. Ride a dragon, skateboard, paraglide. Not open source yet, waitlist only, but keep an eye on this one. NVIDIA LRA2 turns any video into a 3D point cloud. 131 megabytes. Open source right now. You can export scenes to NVIDIA Isaac Sim for robot training. Worth it if you're doing simulation work. And remember that tool I deleted after 20 minutes? It's Omnishow from ByteDance, the influencer AI that clones a person, a product, and a voice. It works technically, but it's deeply weird and I'm not comfortable with where this is going. Deleted it. Moving on, those were all useful. If you think humanoid robots will be doing warehouse work by 2028, I'm genuinely curious where people stand on this. Of everything in this video, I've added 2 things to my actual workflow. Ternary Bonsai for local inference. It's 1.7 gigabytes. Runs on my laptop. No cloud, no latency, no privacy concerns. That's useful. And Google's Gemini 3. 1 flash TTS for placeholder voiceover. I write a script, add some emotion tags, generate it in 10 seconds. See you next week. And tell me, what's the most overhyped AI thing you saw this way? One word in the comments. I genuinely want to know.